A wild island, a realm of great apes, where snakes fall from the sky. An island of extremes, giant caves, impenetrable forests, but it's under threat from its highest peak to the ocean depths. Borneo is a true Eden, beautiful and fragile. Prepare to see this island in the clouds as never before. Borneo is Earth's third largest island and sits right on the equator at the edge of the South China Sea. It's dominated by Mount Kinabalu, the highest mountain in Southeast Asia, much younger than the Himalayas, far away in the northwest of the continent. Kinabalu was thrust up 1.5 million years ago. A mass of granitic rock burst through the island's surface and now stands at around 4 kilometers high. Year-round, its barren peak is exposed to the elements, scouring its surface. It is so high, it blocks the path of rain-bearing monsoon winds. This massive mountain captures clouds and generates its own weather. The temperature can range from a humid 20 degrees in the forest below to chilling sub-zero temperatures on the summit. The lush forests that cover the mountain slopes are some of the planet's most diverse and are on a giant scale too. Many of the tallest rainforest trees in the world are found here. The soil is poor, so massive buttresses support the immense trunks, while all the energy is focused upwards, thrusting the trees over 60 meters towards the sky. Traveling up this multi-story world from forest floor to canopy, different creatures make their livings in different zones, while some travel across them all. The orangutan is the only great ape found in Asia, and even here it only lives on the islands of Borneo and neighboring Sumatra. All the others, like chimps, gorillas and bonobos, live far away in Africa. Orangutans avoid the ground and are the only great apes living in the treetops. This young orangutan seems permanently attached to its mother, fingers twined in her fur. At around a year old, it will move up to bareback riding until it's weaned at 3.5. A fully developed male is enormously strong, and at up to 90 kilos is the heaviest tree-dwelling mammal on Earth. But brawn is meaningless when the trees needed for survival disappear at an alarming rate. It doesn't help that finding a mate is so difficult either. Her offspring will stay close for 6 or 7 years, so she won't be mating for a while yet. Her youngster is intrigued by another tree climber of the forest. Getting from one tree to another can help you find food. Or it can save your life. It's how you do it that counts. Some crawl, some climb, some slide. And some have surprising emergency strategies. Many animals live and die here without ever touching the ground, and danger can come from any direction. With the snake on its tail, the lizard must keep moving. And in this case, the end of the branch is not the end of the line. Transforming into a kind of lizard hang glider is one way to dodge the danger. But it's not out of the woods yet. The snake has a special adaptation of its own. Spreading out its ribs, the snake becomes another kind of aerofoil, and with subtle body shape adjustments, guides itself towards the lizard. Both predator and prey have adapted to the demands of multi-story living. They are both remarkable aeronauts, but in this hunt, the snake is finally outmaneuvered. Up and down its levels, the forest is a hive of activity. Thousands of species share this 3D world by day and by night. Some of them with curious habits. The creatures responsible for these smoke-like trails are hundreds of thousands of bats. Colossal numbers gather in formation to hunt the night skies above the forests. Every centimetre of Borneo's complex terrain is used. Hundreds of caves riddle the limestone cliffs, which explains where all the bats come from. The next shift of bats prepares to leave. Near the cave entrance, wherever you look, wrinkle-lipped bats cover the cave walls. During the day, this is their dormitory. It gives protection from sun and predators. But now the adults are ready for the night's work ahead. The young cannot fly yet, and so cling to their mothers' bodies, or are left behind in nurseries while their parents go to hunt. When grooming is done, the adults will queue up for a mass exodus. As soon as daylight faded, the first wave of bats left the cave. Now their second shift cannot wait any longer. The departure of the first few thousand triggers the rest of the colony. With over 3 million bats, it will take a whole hour for them all to clear the cave. Once out in the open, they are vulnerable to predators. Hawks patrol the cave exit, so while their numbers build, the bats go into defensive formation, a massive, rotating cloud. When the formation reaches a critical size, some private bat signal drives the whole pack to unwind itself and head for the feeding grounds. The bats patrol the zone above the forest canopy, using sonar to sweep for clouds of hovering insects. Tonight, the bats from this cave alone will harvest over 5 tons of food. At the bottom level of the forest, other foragers take to the night. Mouse deer lack the antlers of their larger relatives. Small and compact, about the size of a rabbit, they pick their way through the tangled undergrowth. Attracting the attention of predators could be fatal. The cloak of night helps, but staying silent is the best camouflage. Although nobody told the spiny-tailed porcupine. Clumsy foraging broadcasts its coordinates loud and clear. This nocturnal hunter is a fish owl, which will take small mammals if it gets the chance. A porcupine or mouse deer would be too big though. Back to foraging for the porcupine, though whether its noisy attempts bring any more unwelcome attention from above remains to be seen. If it gets into trouble, it has a clever defense mechanism, a detachable tail, which is less painful than it sounds. A new day brings rain. Not uncommon here. Some years over 4 meters of rain fall on the island. High up on Kinabalu, there is nothing to hold back the water, and within minutes, towering waterfalls are born. This is the lifeblood of the forests and the island. Water shapes and changes the island, washing away vegetation and eroding solid stone on its relentless journey to the sea. As the water gathers and gains momentum, it moves off the granite onto softer sandstone below. When it is pounded through the sandstone crust, it flows to the more porous limestone beneath. The water becomes acidic from carbon dioxide in the air and from forest vegetation. It starts to eat away at the limestone. Sometimes whole rivers simply vanish into the ground. This natural acid erosion is a slow but thorough process. Over hundreds of thousands of years, it has carved out one of the largest and most spectacular cave systems on Earth. Sunlight enters at the cave mouths and sinkholes, but in the depths it is permanently dark and damp. But where there's a will, there's a way. Like bats, cave swiftlets use echolocation to navigate through pitch darkness to find the tiny spot they've chosen to raise their young. Brief illumination uncovers their normally dark roost. Swiftlets can't perch, but they can cling to rock, making even a precipitous cave wall a viable home. All swifts use saliva to bind their nests, but either because there's no nest material around or because they can't see what they're doing, these swiftlets build their nest entirely out of saliva. Their saliva sticks perfectly to the cave wall, and it dries rock hard on contact with the air. It's ingenious, but slow. It may take 2 months for a pair to complete the tiny nest before they can breed. Their hard work is a Southeast Asian delicacy, the main ingredient, a bird's nest soup. For the birds, the nests keep the chicks out of sight and out of reach of predators. Way below, in the lower level of the cave, it's a different lifestyle altogether, on what looks almost like another planet. This is not the cave floor. It is actually a gargantuan pile of droppings, populated by millions of cockroaches. Every square centimetre writhes with activity. Over unknown generations, guano from swiftlets and bats has buried the cave floor. It's a rich source of food for these busy scavengers, and they need never leave the cave. A swiftlet fatality provides an occasional special on the daily menu, and nothing down here goes to waste. Blood, bone and feathers are all consumed. The carcass will be stripped and recycled in a matter of hours. Death, birth, food and sex. It's a self-contained world in the depths of Borneo. In some places, the caves themselves appear to be alive, growing out into the darkness. After eating away the limestone on its way into the cave, the water slowly deposits its minerals in the form of calcium carbonate as it drips from the ceilings and walls. This is an alien landscape, mimicking the mountains and valleys high above. The caverns are slow to carve out and slow to build up. About a centimetre will be added with each century. It's a living history in stone. Even deeper into the island's core, other scavengers are at work. Cave crickets have moved in to occupy the furthest corners. They feel their way around in the dark with fragile, extra-long antennae. Touch lets them navigate and find food. This far in, there isn't a lot of choice for food, and they feed on whatever they find, including unlucky visitors who stray too far from home. Crickets can rely on their oversized rear legs to jump to safety if they ever need to escape. Water saturates Borneo from mountaintop to cavern. Over millions of years, it carved out enormous spaces. The roof here is more than 120 meters above the floor, over 25 meters higher than Big Ben. Wherever it finds its way, it brings countless opportunities for life. Freshwater crabs follow a river up the mountain to settle at the cave's mouth. They feed on whatever flows out from all the activity inside. The crabs are minute specks at the mouth of Deer Cave. It is the world's largest cave passage, more than 2 kilometers long and never less than 90 meters wide. Where it meets the outside world, its scale becomes apparent. These trees are 24 meters high, but still dwarfed by their surroundings. Green plants only colonize the well-lit mouths of the caves. Bright sunlight fuels the rainforest like it has for almost 100 million years. Borneo's rainforest is older even than the Amazon. Until recently, its age and inaccessibility to man kept it a species-rich Eden. Orangutans don't live in large groups like other apes. The fruits they rely on are spread far and wide across the forest, so they can't support big extended families. Often it's only a mother, her latest young, and maybe a juvenile. By the age of 6 or 7, juveniles wander away from their mothers and have to learn the skills needed to become fully independent. But that means starting with the basics. Orangs have amazing grip from birth, but gaining coordination takes practice. This youngster must learn to make 2 nests a day, a small one for the afternoon nap and a larger one for nighttime. These skills are essential, but that doesn't mean they come easily. Orangutan mothers are very good at raising their young, and mortality rates are low. But it's time now for this juvenile to make its way without full-time support. Orangutans might spend almost all their time in the trees because tigers once roamed Borneo. Now they're extinct, some males come down to the forest floor. But for the rest, trunks, branches and vines are their natural home. Orangs spend most of their time foraging and eating. They're big animals with big appetites. Almost 2/3 of the daytime is taken up searching for fruit, bark and shoots. Even the youngest offspring needs to look for its own food when it stops nursing. With the fresh nest complete, it's time for a nap. The baby will sleep with its mother in her nest, avoiding the heat of the tropical afternoon, napping high in the canopy. It will be a few years yet before it puts these skills into practice on its own. For centuries, Borneo's virgin rainforest was inaccessible to the outside world. Dense vegetation and punishing landscape kept outsiders out. But now that's all changed. Logging, cultivation and forest fires steadily eat away the orangutan's forest home. And in only a few decades, more than half of Borneo's virgin rainforest has been lost. This wildlife paradise is living on the edge. Even where the rainforest is still pristine, its lushness doesn't mean it's an easy place to live. Foliage is plentiful, but many of the leaves are too tough to eat. So when fruits arrive, they are in demand. Both animals and plants rely on this harvest as an energy-rich source of food for the wildlife and a chance to disperse seeds for the trees. The fruiting trees are scattered widely across the forest, so it's vital to be in the right place at the right time. And even if you manage that, like this Prevost squirrel, there is plenty of competition. It can't keep a whole tree of fruit to itself. Every 4 years or so, Borneo's forest erupts in mass flowering of some of its biggest trees. Each tree is so vast it can produce millions of flowers, followed by hundreds of thousands of fruits. At times like these, the forest canopy is a living feast. In the tropics, trees flower randomly at any time of year. So once a rainforest tree is in fruit, it's open season for anything that can fly or climb to reach this short-lived bounty. Countless gibbons, monkeys, squirrels and birds, and many others will strip the tree's fruit as quickly as they can. Within a couple of days, all the fruit will be gone, which is good news for the tree. The fruit is filled with seed, and the animals will carry it away in their stomachs and leave it in a patch of fertilizer somewhere else. Of course, the animal's only concern is its own survival. Orangutans play their part in this process too, especially when the durian fruit is ripe, one of their favorite foods. The durian is supposed to taste like sweet, cheesy garlic custard. It's an individual taste, but one that gets its seeds deposited through the forest. The forest is very dense, so there is an advantage to getting the seeds as far away from the parent as possible to avoid competition. Inside the stomach of a hornbill, they can travel for kilometers, getting a better chance of landing in some unclaimed clearing. The dipterocarps, the giants of the forest, demonstrate a particularly elegant aeronautical solution to dispersion. These ingenious seed cases are the key. They don't look impressive, but they use the elements to power their journey. When they fall, they transform into dispersal helicopters, carrying the seed away on the slightest breeze. The water flowing from the summit of Mount Kinabalu carves highways through the impenetrable vegetation, and the dipterocarp hitches a ride to new lands downstream. Even those that fall short get a chance to travel, because they taste good. The next stage of this seed's journey will be through the stomach of the forest's largest inhabitant. These are a unique subspecies of the Asian elephant. It was assumed they arrived here a few centuries ago as a gift to a sultan. But DNA evidence now shows they have lived in these forests for 300,000 years, probably trapped here when rising sea levels cut off the island from Sumatra. Compared to their mainland cousins, they are smaller and mild-tempered, and they move almost silently through the undergrowth as they search for their favorite foods. It's only now, with greater study and understanding and innovations in research, that we are uncovering secrets like the identity of the pygmy elephant. Scientists are in a race against time with the loggers and developers who will clear the forests forever. Recently, a new cat-like creature was spotted, the first new carnivore since 1895. So many new discoveries are hiding in the heart of these pristine rainforests. The deepest and densest parts of Borneo are the stronghold for one of the rarest mammals on Earth. The Sumatran rhino. They used to be widespread across the island, but there may be as few as 30 left in all of Borneo now. Most have been killed through poaching or habitat destruction. The few survivors lead a solitary existence, each one ranging over a huge area of forest. As well as being loners, they are also creatures of habit. As they browse, they always follow the same large circular path, but it may be months before this female will retrace her steps. Living in such isolation, it's highly unlikely that she will find a mate by chance. So the rhinos communicate by leaving markers for each other. The spray will leave a message for any male passing that she is now in season and looking for a mate. Much of the rhino's time, when not browsing, is spent in mud. A regular wallow is the best defense against biting insects. Total immersion helps to keep her skin in good condition, and in the heat of the day, a mud bath is the best place to sleep for the smallest and possibly the rarest rhinoceros in the world. Rainwater constantly washes down from Mount Kinabalu through the forests, vegetation and underground caverns. It's on the last leg of its journey now, down to the sea. These waterways are like the island's highways, carrying animals and plants, energy and food from one level to the next. Before the water flows into the ocean, it passes through one last layer of island life. Right on the margins of Borneo's land, fresh water and salt sea merge to create the mangrove swamp, where trees grow in the sand and are flooded twice a day by tidal waters. The mangrove, above and below water, is a nursery for millions of fish and other creatures, and the life nurtured here contributes to food chains across the island and far out to sea. Proboscis monkeys are unique to Borneo, and they only live in the treetops of the mangrove swamps and coastal forests. Only the males grow the supersized nose of their name. The mix of salt and fresh water makes this a difficult environment, but to these monkeys, it's home. Life is a communal affair. Calls help to keep the family group together, as the search for food takes them through the trees on the shoreline and along the river mouth. If they need to, they will climb up to leap across waterways when searching for food. A troop of this size can only survive here because proboscis monkeys live on a food source that few other animals can cope with: the slightly poisonous leaves and bitter fruit of the mangrove tree itself. The monkeys are pot-bellied because of their poor diet. They have huge multi-chambered stomachs filled with powerful digestive bacteria to break down the vegetation. They actually avoid sweet, rich foods because they can cause deadly bloating. They also look for caterpillars and insect larvae, but when times are lean, the mangrove trees give the monkeys all they need to survive. They are well adapted to their coastal lifestyle, with partly webbed hands and feet to help navigate the twice-daily flooding of the swamp. Silvered langur monkeys feed in this patch of swamp too. Although they couldn't look more different, these two are mother and baby. The strange golden-orange fur makes the infant highly visible, and so the troop can keep an eye on it. But once it's 3 months old, its fur will slowly turn silvery grey to match the mother's. Like the proboscis monkeys, the langurs have large divided stomachs to break down tough leaves, but they prefer softer young ones if they can find them. They must forage almost constantly to find enough to survive. From a distance, at low tide, the mangrove mud looks empty, but it's not. It's actually a rich feeding ground. As soon as the sea retreats, its bizarre inhabitants appear. There are fish here that can walk on land. And conventional-looking crabs are definitely in a minority. The male fiddler crab's overdeveloped claw is built to impress. The purpose of the display is to attract females and to keep other males away. But with neighbors everywhere you turn, displaying is a full-time job. The mud skipper survives on land by breathing seawater stored in its gill chambers. Like its competitors, it's after the rich crop of algae suspended in the mud. When the tide returns, it will retreat to its burrow and wait for its next chance to come on land and forage. Although there seems to be plenty of mud, most of it is already occupied, which makes any would-be squatters unwelcome. With each tide, the swamp gets stirred by the sea, and its flotsam and jetsam is redistributed. This is a good time to go foraging. You never know what you might find. A ripe mangrove fruit is a welcome sight for this long-tailed macaque. The macaques are not specialized feeders like the proboscis monkeys or langurs, and so they don't have to stay in the mangrove to survive. But it does offer good opportunities for foraging. They eat a wide range of food and may forage up to 20 times a day. When they can, they live on a diet of small animals. Crab is a favorite, but ripe fruit will do. Long-tailed macaques learn from each other's behavior. Once, some macaques watched a female washing her food, maybe to get rid of sand or improve the flavor. And now many of the others do the same thing. This type of cultural learning is unique to this monkey. For the mud dwellers, feeding time is over. Their tide is turning. And as the crabs sense the water's approach, they know it's time to hole up once again. Like the mud skippers, they're not very good swimmers, so staying in their burrows keeps them out of the way of predatory fish and stops them being washed out to sea. The rising tide will transform the mangrove swamp and allow thousands of other creatures to shelter and feed among the spire-like roots that pierce the sand. As fresh water finally gives way to salt and the edge of the land disappears beneath the waves, Borneo's power to amaze doesn't disappoint. Beneath the waves lies another world, as rich and complex as the one above. Borneo is famous for having some of the best diving sites in the world. Hundreds of coral reefs surround its tropical shores. Its reefs lie where the Indian and Pacific Oceans overlap, making its waters the meeting point for a mass of colourful marine life. These reefs have been called the rainforests of the sea. Hundreds of varieties of corals support a wealth of microorganisms and a hierarchy of fish to feed on them. Of course, just as in the rainforest above, such abundance attracts attention. The reef is a magnet for predators, and ocean-going hunters like the barracuda arrive at the reefs in very large numbers. Sometimes they swim in rotating wheel formations, just like the bats leaving the caves at dusk. Whether this mesmerizing display is to protect them from attack or to help catch prey is not known, but their lethal efficiency in hunting is unquestioned. Some fish never stray beyond Borneo's coral reefs into the deep oceans. But other creatures spend their lives out there and are only now coming back to the sanctuary of these sheltered island waters. After 25 years away, these turtles are returning to the island of their birth. Now ready to breed, they may swim thousands of kilometers of ocean to reach the reef below the beach where they were born. The turtles linger at one of the reef's cleaning stations. Here, specialist fish make a meal out of their parasites and dead skin, leaving the turtles more comfortable and less prone to infections. The cleaner fish also clean algae from the turtles' sensitive shells, which could slow them down on their epic migration across the seas. The pause gives the female turtles a chance to gather their strength for the last and most important part of their journey. In the waters off the reef, males are waiting, and when the time is right, each female will move off to join them. The turtle's breeding season lasts for several months, and after about 60 days, the first eggs are hatching. It's time for these hatchlings to begin their own perilous journey. Every instinct drives them to leave the land and head for the sea. This is the most dangerous time for them, as they are easy targets for herons, gulls, and crabs. Once in the sea, they are the perfect snack size for sharks, dolphins, and large fish. Perhaps only 1 out of every 100 hatchlings will live long enough to reach their breeding age. If this one is lucky, it may spend 80 years swimming the tropical seas and breed many times. If it does, it will return here to the shores of Borneo. But what will it find in 25 years' time? Let's hope this isn't the last chance to marvel at Borneo's wild secrets. There is still so much to discover. Over 350 new species have been found here since 1994. An international initiative now protects Asia's last true tropical wilderness, home to 6% of the world's biodiversity. Perhaps, at last, times are changing for the living Eden we call Borneo, island in the clouds.